Right now, we're in the middle of a heat wave, and I can't stop thinking about how lucky I am to live in a place with air conditioning. At the time that I'm writing this, according to my weather app, it currently feels like 42 degrees Celsius out there. But within the safety of my home, I have a lovely cold basement, a pint of gelato in the freezer, and a jug of fancy lemonade that I bought specifically for this occasion. I'm completely ready to wait this thing out with a movie marathon until the sun stops trying to cook me like an egg the moment I step outside. But it's within times like this that I wonder how people ever managed to cope before the invention of all these modern luxuries. And, more importantly, how were people surviving back when they had to wear all those layers? I mean, I'm sweating in a tank top and shorts. Meanwhile, Victorian women had to wear drawers, a chemise, a corset, a petticoat, an overdress, and extras like a crinoline or a bustle depending on the decade. Not to mention, these clothes usually covered people from head to toe, and they had extra accessories like hats and gloves. It makes you wonder how the Victorians handled the heat without going insane. So join me, dear viewers, as today we explore how people in the 19th century stayed cool during the summer, and maybe see if we can learn a couple of things from them to help us get through this heat wave. Summer fashions during the Victorian era can be deceiving to our modern sensibilities. Though they are gorgeous, they still follow trends of the time, which, at first glance, do not appear to be very cooling. You've got high necklines, women's dresses with long sleeves and skirts, and men's suits with jackets and waistcoats. Everywhere you look, there are layers, and most of the body is completely covered. Compare this to the modern summer wardrobe in many countries, where the goal is to wear as little clothing as possible, and suddenly Victorian fashions look like a nightmare. But they were actually cooler than you'd think. The most important factor in this was fabric choice. Unlike the synthetic fabrics that make up most of our clothes today, the Victorians were wearing natural fibers, all of which were much more breathable than something like a polyester. Many natural fibers are wicking fabrics, which means that when you sweat, they're able to pull moisture away from the body, and they dry very quickly, keeping your clothes from sticking to you and making you feel a lot cooler. During the 19th century, the king of summer fabrics was linen. Linen could be found in pretty much any type of garment. It was common in underwear, dresses, waistcoats, pants, the linings of jackets, and plenty of accessories. It was also relatively cheap, came in many different weights, and could be washed without ruining the fabric, making it an ideal choice for people of all social classes. It was also very comfortable, which adds to its practicality. Other popular fabrics for the summer include cotton, silk, muslin, lawn, and even wool. Now, personally, the idea of wearing wool during the summer sounds horrible, but being a natural fiber, it is very breathable, and actually has a unique property due to the structure of the fiber itself that helps it efficiently transfer heat, thus regulating body temperature. Another important thing to consider is that fabric was simply made different back then. These days it can be surprisingly hard to find garments from natural fibers that don't cost a fortune or have some amount of polyester mixed in. And most of the time you get something that has like 5% linen or wool and then the rest is polyester, so you get all of the worst aspects of those fabrics like wrinkling and being itchy, with none of the benefits. And even if you do manage to find something like a t-shirt that's 100% cotton, chances are it will still be worse for the heat than something made in the 19th century, since modern fabric is designed to be cheap and is often manufactured with a much tighter weave than it would have been back then, meaning less breathability. But Victorian fashions had a lot of other strategies for cooling than just fabric choice. Many pieces of summer clothing were designed to be thin and loose-fitting to prevent sticking to the body when someone sweats. Trimmings and embellishments were kept minimal so as to avoid any materials that would help conserve heat. Color choice was also important to divert sunlight, with many garments being made in light colors like pale green, lavender, blue, and of course, white. It's also important to note that the amount of coverage Victorian clothes provided was helpful in avoiding the heat of the sun. Long sleeves, hats, gloves, and parasols all helped keep the sun's rays off of the skin, blocking harmful radiation and keeping your skin pale, which was fashionable at the time. Now, I'm not saying that Victorians never got overheated in summer weather. Though the climate was slightly cooler on average, they would have had heat waves and high temperatures just like we do. But their clothing was nowhere near as bad as modern sensibilities might assume. Another crucial aspect in keeping cool during the summer was architecture. Unlike modern homes which just slap an air conditioner in there and call it a day, houses prior to the 20th century had to be carefully thought out in order to optimize heating in the winter and cooling in the summer. Since they didn't have any way to artificially cool down temperatures inside, effort was put into ensuring that those temperatures never rose to begin with. Design choices like high ceilings, open-air chimneys, and solid brick walls gave buildings a high thermal mass, which allowed them to soak up heat while keeping the temperatures low inside. Windows were outfitted with shutters, which could keep away sunlight while still allowing fresh air through. Some houses also used sash windows, which included separate movable sections to let cool air in and hot air out. The layout of houses during this era was also designed to optimize airflow. A common feature was the inclusion of passages, spaces in the house between doors or windows that allowed for a cross breeze to pass through the entire building. Shading was also important. Heavy drapes during the warmer months would be replaced with thin lace curtains, and awnings would be added to the outside of windows or porches. These choices were particularly effective because they prevented the sun's heat from reaching the inside of the house, while also allowing the windows to stay open. Another thing that was carefully considered was how to cook food without completely overheating your house. Some people would build summer kitchens, an addition, usually at the back of the house, where cooking would be done during the summer to keep any heat from the stove away from the other rooms. Oftentimes, families would only own one stove, so it would be disassembled and moved into the summer kitchen once the weather became warmer, and then moved back into the regular kitchen during the fall. Now, I recently visited a museum village where I was able to view historic baking demonstrations in homes both with and without a summer kitchen, and let me tell you, they really made a difference. Also, I want to share a fun fact about Victorian-era stoves because I don't think I'll ever have a chance to talk about this again, but back then, if a stove salesman came to your door, he obviously couldn't carry around all the different models he was selling, so instead, he would bring these little cast-iron miniatures. Then if you bought a stove, you could also get the mini one for your child's dollhouse, and it was adorable. Now, although clothing and architecture were the main strategies for keeping cool during the summer, there were also a few fun activities you could do to help beat the heat. If you lived in the city, then finding places surrounded by nature could provide a nice reprieve during the warmer months. Public parks were starting to become popular during this time, which made the perfect location for a picnic. Surprisingly, cemeteries were also a common picnic spot. But if you had the means, then the go-to choice for many was to take trips out of the city, either to the country for fresh air and a cooler atmosphere, or to the beach. And yes, they still covered up even when swimming. Another way to keep cool was with a variety of summer recipes. The Victorians were known to make all kinds of seasonal foods, and cold dishes like iced drinks or jellies were a great option. An 1875 issue of Castle's Family magazine recommends refreshing foods like cold lamb with mint jelly, lobster salad, sliced and seasoned cucumbers, and cold pigeon pie, ideally at a temperature where the gravy takes on a nice jelly-like consistency. This will all be kept cool in your picnic basket by a large chunk of ice covered in sawdust and then wrapped in a blanket to reduce melting. But of course, the most iconic of summer treats was ice cream. Though historically an expensive dessert that was reserved mainly for the wealthy, by the mid-19th century the price of ice cream had lowered drastically, and the treat was becoming popular in England. Now, ice cream could be purchased or made yourself with an ice cream maker and a book of recipes, the most notable of which were invented by Agnes Marshall, a woman so famous for her ice cream that she was nicknamed the Queen of Ices. Victorian ice cream also had some interesting flavors. Although many were fruit-based, there were also recipes that included vegetables like cucumber, asparagus, and spinach. Now, I would definitely pass on the asparagus, but I think I would give the cucumber or even the spinach a chance. I find them intriguing. So, what can we learn from the Victorians to help us get through this heatwave? I would say, buy natural fabrics, sometimes it's actually better to be covered up, enjoy the shade, and never underestimate the power of a good cross breeze. Now, where can I buy an ice cream maker? Hey everyone, thank you for watching! If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like or a comment down below. If you want to see more content like this, you can also subscribe to my channel, and keep up to date on all the fun history videos of the future. But for now, I bid you farewell.